Okay, so I was making this video about Burmese Jews. Watch the main video if it's out. And I didn't really want to include all this in there, so I'm putting out this little side video to get out all the research I did. My warning to y'all is I'm definitely not an expert. I was just looking for Jews. Seek out your own sources for verification. So, if you're unaware, there have been clashes in the Indian state of Manipur recently, mainly between the Meitei people, who make up the majority of the population and are majority Hindu, and the Kuki people, which are a mainly Christian tribal group that has a Jewish minority. The Kuki, along with another Tibeto-Burmese tribe called the Naga, live in the hills of Manipur and surrounding areas and have had an adversarial relationship with the Indian government basically since independence or earlier. Violence was heating up between all three groups through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s until a tripartite suspension of operations was signed with the Indian military in 2005. The suspension of operations is basically a one-year ceasefire that was enacted to allow dialogue, which didn't exactly happen, but the government has continued to extend the SOO every year since then, until March 10th, 2023, when the Manipur government withdrew. So what happened? And again, a warning, I'm not an expert. I don't know shit, except for the deep rabbit hole I went down. But from what I understand is the Meitei make up 53% of the population of Manipur but are confined to 10% of the land because the hills of Manipur are reserved for those with scheduled tribe status, meaning the Kuki and the Naga. The government is dominated by Meitei, and the High Court of Manipur issued an order to try and get them listed as a scheduled tribe so that they could move in. And in reaction to that, a student group initiated a tribal solidarity march to protest the court order, which was then counter-protested, which led to violence in May. There's been a lot of other sussery going on too, and, grain of salt all of this, because, I don't know. But the government launched an eviction drive in February, clearing out towns within reserve forest areas, which were designated under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, I think, despite the tribes being there for at least 100 years before that. They're getting kicked out. There's also something I saw, which on February 14th, the government asked for all licensed firearms to be submitted to the police for re-verification by March 1st. Yeah, and then they withdrew from the SOO on March 10th. And I also saw, obviously this might be biased from what sources I'm getting my hands on, but I also saw they demolished 3 churches on April 11th, saying they were illegal constructions, and, dropping the crazy propaganda about how Kuki are growing poppy fields and selling drugs and they're illegal immigrants, etc.
It is very incorrect to call the Kukis terrorists and the poppy planters and drug traffickers. Absolutely not. It is absolutely incorrect. But having said so, you cannot undermine the fact that narco-terrorism is going on. Look at the junta, look at the Burmese, the international porous border problem issue. And these are those immigrants who are not actually even Indian citizens.
So, how are the Jews doing? Not great, to be so honest. At least one guy is dead, as per an article from several weeks ago, and a few others are missing, and thousands are in these apparently squalid military camps for their own protection. Also, 2 synagogues and a Torah have been burnt. Despite this, even outlets like Times of Israel stress that this is, quote, not traditional anti-Semitism in the sense that they're not being targeted because they're Jews. And if there were any of that, they would be chomping at the bit to encourage Israel to airlift them right to the West Bank. As it stands, they're encouraging all of them to make Aliyah anyway, but they were probably doing that before. If they did go, that would be sad to me. I mean, situation's bad, get out, for sure. But it'd be great if they could survive as this tough, remote, tribal Jewish community. But in peace, of course. So yeah, in summation, dozens of people are dead, lots of buildings are burnt. I don't think it's 100% either or, because it's wild that 53% of the population can only inhabit 10% of the land. But also, they are using their numbers and control of the government to enact violence against a disenfranchised minority. Hope it stops. It might be stopped already by the time I get this out. You know, the government shut off the internet when violence started on May 3rd, so who knows what's going on there. Definitely not me, but wanted to make this video anyway. Hope it's over, hope everybody's okay, and hope they can all make peace and live happily ever after. Bezrat Hashem. Peace.